definitely come to Door County. The leaves of the trees are a few days from hitting peak, and it won't be long before they start dropping and covering up all those beautiful old stone farmers' fences. Daytime temps are still in the 60s, drops to the 40s at night, but it won't be long before we have our first frost, which can only mean one thing. For me, it's time to pack things up and head back down to Key West. However, before we go, I wanted to give you an update on the new shop, on the Northern Key West Makers Shop. Oh, what do you say? You weren't aware that there's a new Key West Makers Shop? Let's bring you up to speed before we go. Now, you more astute viewers may have already recognized that we are no longer in sunny and hot Key West. In fact, we are in the northern tip of the Door County Peninsula in Wisconsin, where my wife and I have purchased this lovely property. It's designed in a historically significant style that was originally used at Sea Ranch on the California coast in 1965. And this style was popular up until about 1985, but this is really a great version of it. We'll dig into that in some future episodes. But that's all for another day, because we're here today to discuss the new summer home of Key West Makers Shop, right over here. The building is just shy of 400 square feet inside, which makes it about a third larger than the Key West Makers Shop in Key West. Pretty excited about that. Let's have a look inside. Door's locked. Shit. Well, it is a beautiful day in Wisconsin, beautiful spring day in Wisconsin. We have just arrived here from a long journey from Key West, Florida, and we're ready to get started on the new shop. Call this day one. So even though I called this day one, there was a day zero where I did some planning on the shop, made some decisions. Number one, I'm not going to put electrical in the walls. That will be running conduit over the surface of the plywood that I put up, which brings me to my second decision. I will have plywood covering the walls. Number three, there will be insulation in the walls for soundproofing. Even though we're out in the country, we don't really have neighbors. I would like to work late into the night, and the sound does carry here in the woods quite a bit. So just not to disturb anybody and be a good neighbor, I'm going to soundproof the walls. Another decision that I made in my day zero planning is that that will be the final surface of the shop. I'm not going to put up, what's the internet thing craze that everybody loves to do and take videos of, and probably millions of dollars have literally been made on these angle French cleats. I will not do French cleats in this shop. I like to make bespoke holders for things, and having the plywood on the wall allows me to screw directly into the wall. There are, of course, other ways to do this. I've done this many different ways in my shops over the years. This is the way that I have settled on that works best for me. It's actually quite quick and dirty. You can get up and running. It's not a bad idea to do some sections of pegboard, especially if you're on your first or second shop. That's going to give you the opportunity to get those things hung up quickly. If you're not used to making a lot of different tool holders, that is a great way to go. But here we go with the plywood. You can see here my plywood is very rough cabinet grade BC plywood that I'll put on the wall. It doesn't have to look great, but I do like the look of the raw wood. There's some prep I have to do on these walls. There's a lot of hangers. The old timer that owned this place, that actually built this place, built a lot of the furniture and built the cabin by himself by hand. So he used this garage as his workshop, and his form of organization was simply nails everywhere. They are absolutely everywhere in this garage. Look, new ladder. This side's not too bad, but the other side where he's got had his workbench and left a nice sturdy 2x4, 2x6 workbench. This thing is just covered with nails. There's got to be 200 nails in it. At this point, I'm about halfway around the garage, putting up the insulation and the plywood. So far, I've had it pretty easy. That side of the garage was not being used either by me or the previous owner, just some large storage. He had a few nails in the wall, a few shelves, but this side is a different story. This is apparently where his workbench was, still is. I'm using that. He has nails all over the wall where he must have been storing stuff and a lot of shelving. I'm making use of a lot of that. So that stuff all has to get moved. All of my tools, everything else has to get moved to the other side of the garage. So I think this is a good time to start talking about some cheap, simple storage solutions that'll get you started. Let's talk about pegboard. Cheap, easy, you can find it everywhere. There's hooks for just about everything. You can reconfigure, you're not committed to the way you set it up. On the negative side, those little hooks fall off all the time. It drives me crazy. Do yourself a favor and get these little plastic black clips that hold those in. You'll thank me later. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm not going to cover all of my walls in pegboard. You certainly could. You can buy it in 4-foot by 8-foot sheets, and you could use that instead of plywood. But I will make use of some movable pegboard panels. Now, typically you would mount these 2-foot by 4-foot panels to the walls with some standoffs that come in a kit with some hooks, but I'm going to make a wooden frame around them that will act as a standoff. Also clasp them up a little bit, and it keeps the borders from getting banged and frayed up over time. After those trim or border pieces are cut to the right width, I just lower the blade and then take a few passes on it to make a groove the width of the thickness of the pegboard. Something I haven't talked about, but I think is really important when you're reconfiguring your shop, starting out your shop, have an idea for what you want the feel to be in it. Do you want sort of a dark industrial space? Do you want it white and modern and clean and stripped and void of a lot of things on the walls? For me, I like kind of a natural wood, especially aged wood without any stains on it in my shop, and over time that gets a great patina on it. However, some of the wood that I'm using, the scrap wood, has been stained already. So I have kind of a color scheme in here that I'm going to use. It'll be like olive green, moss green, some dark oranges. So I do have to paint things. I bought a couple different colors of orange. Nope, that's not orange, that's green. And I'm gonna get this stuff painted as I go along, especially for the things that I think are gonna last a long time and probably endure in the shop. The corners of the frame, of course, get a 45-degree miter at the chop saw. And then I just put some glue in the groove or in the dado and use 18-gauge nails in the corners to hold it together while the glue is drying. Now, some time ago, I made a video on sort of shop storage and shop organization strategies. One of the things that I made mention of is labeling your storage areas, and pegboard's no different. If you don't label your pegboard what is intended to go on this specifically, it will end up being a junk collector and you will become dissatisfied with it over time. So I ordered a few stencils off of the interweb. I will put a link to those down below. I'll also put a link to that video down below in the description. And I'm just going to label the type of things that I expect to be on this pegboard. Don't worry, you can always paint over it and change it. If you prefer, use some gaffer's tape and just make a label out of gaffer's tape. Yes, I realize this pegboard doesn't have a label on it yet. I'm not sure quite what's going to go on this pegboard panel, but you'll see that done before the end of the video. Number 2, nails. I use finish nails for the most part. These are 8D 2.5 inch. You can nail these right into the plywood, pull them out pretty easily. You want to get a little bit more fancy, get yourself a piece of scrap wood, maybe put all your wrenches off this one. You can move this around, drill a couple holes in here, and then just drill this whole piece into your paneling. Fancier yet, get yourself an assortment of hooks and eye hooks. Again, you can screw those right into your plywood walls. Or, and I'm repeating myself, get a nice piece of scrap wood, a piece of plywood, put all of your wrenches of the same sort in one piece of plywood, cut that off, screw that into the wall, boom, Bob's your uncle. Let's start with the wall mounted panel backed with plywood for these wrenches or spanners. You know who you are. I already have a full video on this, so I'll just hit the highlights here. Again, I spiced it up with a frame. And this time I didn't need a standoff from the wall, so if you look at the profile of the trim, it's L-shaped, not C-shaped. There's a good shot of it. I pre-drilled the holes for the hooks and then just screwed them in by hand, which tore up my fingers, but here we are. And here the stencils make their appearance finally. I do have a longer video on the making of these, and I'll put that in a link down below. And donezo. Okay, folks, here comes number 4, and it's quite specific. I already have a significant amount of lumber in the shop leaning up against the walls, and it seems to be accumulating more every day. Now, I typically have an outdoor lumber rack, and there's plenty of videos on the interwebs on how to build those, but I also like to have some lumber stored inside for the projects that I'm working on, as well as the next projects, so that that lumber can acclimate. And the cheapest, easiest way I found to do this is just buy one of these pre-made wall hanging lumber racks. Do yourself a favor, get that lumber that is inside of your shop up on the wall and out of your way. I'll put a link to the one that I bought down below, but you can buy these all over the place. And if number 4 was extremely specific, numbers 5 and 6 are fairly general. So number 5, shelves. I had a lot of scrap wood that came out of dismantling the new house. They are some really unusual pieces, and I chose to use those for some shelving. Very simple. I made some brackets and then just screwed 2 pieces together and screwed the brackets in. I've also built some fancier shelves here. This one has built-in dividers, which I absolutely love for tool storage. And this one is built specifically for tools like drills that I can hang upside down. And if you'd like to see some videos on how to make these yourselves, they are extremely useful. Just leave me a comment down below. And of course, everything gets a coat of paint with our new paint scheme. And if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you already know that I love to use dowels for making shop storage. I have some scrap plywood. I have some scrap pine shelving that we took out of the house when we bought it. I think we can make something with this. Well, nobody, and I mean nobody, knows what happened to the footage of those tool holders being made, but you'll see them in the final reveal later in the video. And as a bonus, because I care, here are a few extra bonus shots of tool holders I've made previously with dowels. And finally, keep your eyes out for secondhand items that could be used as shop furniture, especially things like this cubby that my brother picked up for me on the Face-Based Marketplace. It has a lot of storage for little things that would otherwise get lost in the shop. With some good shop solutions ready to go, I can pick back up with the decommission, disassembling, and demo work, and finally finish putting up the insulation and plywood on this half of the shop. And so far I've been trying to disassemble one section at a time, one 4x8 sheet of plywood's worth of wall space, and then put that stuff back up on the wall once I get the plywood in place. Over this section has a sort of continuous shelf that spans probably 3 sheets of plywood. All I have is this tiny level that came with something, I don't know what. I'm pretty sure it's not accurate, but here we are. Of course, the problem with shelves is they accumulate stuff. So I typically try to make zones on the shelves and label those zones with gaffer's tape, or use containers that have labels and put those on the shelves. If I put anything in a cardboard box on the shelf, those also get gaffer's tape and a label if it's not completely evident what's in them. But boy, oh boy, just for getting stuff up off the floor where you're not going to trip on it and you can see it all, you can't beat some shelves. We had a little bit of a setback. Well, we had a little bit of a setback while we waited for the electrical work to be done, the new panel to be put in the garage. We're about to, the electricians are here today. The folks are here boring the holes. So we'll take a look at that and then we'll get back to finishing up the paneling or the plywood and the insulation. Between all the trees and their roots and the hard rock we're sitting on here, we're sitting on the Niagara escarpment. They couldn't dig a trench for the wires and the water out to the shop. So they brought up a boring machine from Green Bay and they're going to tunnel their way out to the garage. And of course over here we had to use an excavator to get down to the base, the foundation of the house, so we could run the wires into the basement. A little bit of paint, everything will be fine. Well, the electricians have finished up phase one of their work, which is to get the sub panel installed with the lights hooked up again and the existing electrical circuits hooked back up. The next step for me now is to get the insulation back in, which you see I've done, and then get the plywood up on all of this so they can come back in, run the circuits over the top of the plywood around the shop. Let's get this plywood installed. And before I forget, let me introduce you all to Sugar, our 1969 Ford F100, which will be our going to town rig for the Key West Makers North shop. The reason I mention this is because until we can get another outbuilding built, Sugar's got to spend her winters in the workshop. So everything's got to be pushed off to the side in the back of the shop to make room. She is quite a large vehicle. Well, as you can see, we've got Sugar in the shop already, but I wanted to give you a quick walk around and do the final reveal of where we're leaving the shop before we head back home. Some of the things I wanted to point out, I picked up this cabinet. The top is truly a Gerstner. The bottom is actually, a Grizzly cabinet, which I'm really happy with. But I've labeled all of the drawers. I'll have to use the gaffer's tape and the white grease markers for that. A little corner for the yard stuff. You can see one of our stenciled pegboards there. Simple hanger for my triangle, and those are beveled at the top where that sits in. Technique I use quite a bit is the dowels into a piece of wood for hanging just about anything. That was supposed to be just for electrical wire, but hey, I had to find some place for the welding helmet. As you'll recall, these were made with parts from as we disassembled a closet and a bed area in the house. Those worked out quite well. Here's the old bench that was here. Next year we'll probably disassemble it and make something that is more appropriate to the size of what I actually need in here. A lot of my Festool stuff is below. Parts for sugar are down here as well. There's the Powermatic saw, or at least part of it, that I used before I got 230 power in the garage. And again, you can see some of the vestiges of the old electric system. It's still in use, and when we get back here and get the tools laid out next spring, we'll have new electrical runs. This is a very quick and easy tool storage. We'll do a video on these. We've got a couple of variations on it, some that are quick and easy, some that are quite custom. Another simple tool storage. And everything's quite easily just drilled into the walls here. Don't have to find studs. I had to take the sliding table off of my saw stop to store it here. It's my 8-inch Rockwell planer. We'll have to get that dialed in. It has a little bit of an issue. This cabinet, these are very useful. If you can pick up a cubby or two on Facebook Marketplace, this one I think my brother picked up for me for $60. I probably still owe him a case of beer for that. But it's been great for just storing all screws and small bits and bobs. Another pegboard. This table I got on Amazon. I will put a link to it. That's about the depth and height that I really like. It also came with casters. It's one table. I don't have the casters on it yet, but I will. These drill bit storages are really fantastic. These are also an Amazon purchase, these drawers. Some of them have dividers. They're different sizes. Cheap, but very reliable. I don't know if reliable is the word, but effective. Efficient. There's the finger remover 5000, which I actually used. That in the Powermatic table saw were used extensively. Notice the use of the wood storage racks, again, ready-made. What's holding up that vac hose there was actually in the garage already. I moved it. A little more pegboard. We'll do a video on these. I have these in my other shop as well. Super easy to make. If you have these F-style clamps, they're fantastic. Now, a lot of the wood that I brought from Key West is just stacked up on the walls here. You did notice the wood storage up here, but a lot of it is parts and pieces of the house that I'll use to make furniture for the shop, as well as some parts to the kitchen when we get back in spring. And then I'll be able to put that mahogany back up on these shelves. Can maybe see my crisscrosses over there. And a little hanger for them on the other side of sugar, another small clamp rack. And that's just house-oriented things on that pegboard. None of this will probably remain exactly where it is when we actually organize the shop and build it out in spring. This is the first stage where we get everything off the floor, get it organized, and then we'll start planning. I actually have a functioning shop right now, especially when I get sugar out of here. We're able to move the tools back into the garage, into the shop, and create the shop again in spring. And then we'll lay out everything. But this is a great first step. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, or at least leave me a comment. Tell me about your shop organization or your shop in the comments down below. Hit the subscribe button if you want to join us back here in spring, and in the meantime, watch some of our existing videos. For Key West Makers, this is Chris Schmidt signing out from Ellison Bay.